You ever wonder what really hides down there? Beneath all that endless blue, the places sunlight never touches? I used to think that deep ocean was just another frontier waiting to be understood. Numbers, pressure, data, nothing more. But after what I saw, after what we found, I don't think the ocean wants to be understood. Some of you might think this is just another ghost story, a sailor's tale. But I can promise you it's not. My name doesn't matter. What matters is the truth, and I need someone to hear it before it happens again. So listen carefully. This isn't about monsters. It's about something older, something that learns, and something that's still out there, waiting 4,000 meters beneath the surface. This is what happened to us on the research vessel Arkite. And this is why I'll never go near the ocean again. I've never been able to look at the ocean the same way since that expedition. Sometimes, when I hear the low hum of a generator or the creak of steel, my stomach tightens. It's been years, but the memories haven't dulled. The sea doesn't forget, and neither do I. I was part of a deep-sea research team aboard a vessel called the RV Arkite, 5 of us in total, plus the ship's small crew. Our mission was simple map, a forgotten stretch of the abyssal plain, far off the continental shelf, somewhere in the middle of nowhere, 4,000 meters down. No shipping routes, no geological formations, just endless flat seabed. A blank canvas for the ocean's oldest secrets. Life aboard the Arkite was quiet. The kind of quiet that makes you hear your own thoughts too loudly. Days bled together, coffee that tasted like rust-stale jokes, the hum of equipment cycling through the same endless scans. We were scientists, but more than that, we were dreamers. Each of us hoped to find something, a thermal vent, a wreck, a new formation, something we could name. It was childish pride, but it kept us sane. The air on board always smelled faintly of oil and salt. Even after a shower, you could still feel the ship on your skin. Outside there was only blackness, water so deep that light itself died before reaching it. We were a fragile bubble of air, suspended over miles of crushing pressure. I remember the day everything changed. It didn't begin with anything dramatic, just a glitch. The winch system jammed during ROV recovery, nearly costing us $2 million of equipment. Everyone was tense. Still, protocol demanded we continue the sonar sweeps while the repairs were underway. So we did. Sam, our sonar tech, was the first to notice it. He frowned at the monitor, leaned closer, and asked, "You seeing this?" I walked over, still holding my coffee. On the main screen, faint clusters appeared, shapes too clean to be random noise. At first, I thought it was a glitch in the multi-beam array, but the geometry was perfect. Hexagonal depressions, each 3 meters across, repeating at flawless intervals across the seabed. Could be polygonal cracking. Lucas said he was our youngest geologist, fresh out of postdoc. Ancient sediment features. Mara, the ROV pilot, shook her head immediately. Not this deep. Not that uniform. That's not natural. The room went quiet. There was a subtle thrill beneath our disbelief, the possibility that we'd found something worth naming, something unknown. We logged the anomaly, stamped the coordinates, and decided to send the ROV down for a closer look once the winch was fixed. That night I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw those perfect hexagons stretching into the dark. I remember thinking how artificial they looked, as if something had arranged them with purpose. By morning, I'd convinced myself it was just geology. That's what science teaches you to do, to rationalize, even when something in your gut whispers otherwise. By noon, the ROV was ready. We double-checked every system. Cameras, thrusters, manipulators, all green. As the winch lowered the unit into the blue, the deck crew watched in silence. The cable hissed through the pulleys, unspooling meter by meter, until the ROV disappeared into the dark. Inside the control cabin, the hum of machines was constant. Depth readings ticked higher, 500, 1,000, 2,000 meters. At 3,800, sunlight was long gone. The view on the monitor looked like stars drifting in space, plankton, and bioluminescent specks swirling past the floodlights. At 4,127 meters, the bottom came into view, fine sediment rising like smoke. When it cleared, the formations appeared, rows upon rows of hexagonal trenches carved with surgical precision into the seabed. Each one sharp-edged, clean, impossibly uniform. The ROV's lights glinted off something, not rock, not silt. A dull sheen, almost metallic, yet not reflective. Material composition, I asked. Lucas squinted at the spectrometer readout. Low reflectivity. Density's wrong for basalt. No magnetic response. Maybe synthetic. Synthetic. The word hung in the air like a curse. We drifted over the formations, every one of us glued to the monitors. No fish, no movement. Even the usual tiny amphipods that lived in trenches this deep were absent. The water chemistry readings came in strange, faint electromagnetic surges, pulsing beneath background levels. Could be geothermal, Lucas muttered, but his voice lacked conviction. We pushed deeper into the field, each formation arranged as if according to an invisible plan. Perfect order. It felt wrong, too deliberate. Then something moved. A flicker at the edge of the frame low to the ground, fast like a shadow, darting just out of reach. Mara pan right, I said, my heart pounding. She turned the ROV slowly. Nothing, just drifting silt. Probably a fish, Sam said, but he didn't sound sure. Another flicker this time, higher near one of the spires. It vanished the instant we focused on it. Could be debris from the thrusters, Mara offered, voice tight. We stayed silent after that, every eye fixed on the feed. Nothing else moved. Just the endless perfect geometry, and that feeling that we weren't the ones observing anymore. By the time we brought the ROV back up, the mood on board had shifted. No jokes, no chatter. Even the usual buzz of the ship's systems seemed louder, like the vessel itself was listening. The next morning, I sat in the dry lab with a cold cup of coffee, reviewing sonar data from the night before. 3 separate scans, baseline 12 hours later and 24. At first, they looked identical. No movement, no structural change. Then Mara slid into the chair beside me and pointed to the screen. Does this look weird to you? She zoomed in on a section near the northern edge of the site. 6 depressions in a curved line. Another cluster below. 5 more to the west. They weren't random. They had rhythm. Repetition. I frowned. Coincidence. Pareidolia. We're seeing patterns that aren't there. Mara didn't respond. Instead, she opened the ship's layout diagram on another monitor, our living quarters, labs, recreation areas, and overlaid it onto the sonar map. My breath caught. The largest grouping of depressions matched the location of the ship's mess and lounge. The smaller ones aligned almost perfectly with the forward cabins, including mine. We stared at the overlap in silence. Neither of us said it, but we were both thinking the same thing. Whatever was down there, it knew exactly where we were. That night I woke to a sound, faint, rhythmic, a hollow tapping against the hull. slow, deliberate, like fingertips tracing along steel. It came from below. No one admitted hearing it the next morning, but no one denied it either. I didn't sleep much after that night. Every sound echoed through the hull. Every groan of steel made me think something was crawling just outside. Still, the mission continued. Routine was all we had to keep ourselves from unraveling. By midday, the sonar scans came back with a new render of the site. I layered the 3 most recent sweeps over each other to check for changes. Nothing had shifted in the topography. The trenches were the same. The spires were the same. Everything was still except for one new cluster near the northern quadrant. They weren't hexagons this time. They were ovals, slightly distorted, almost organic in their curves. When I zoomed in, the layout struck me with something close to dread. It wasn't random, it was a reflection. Each mark on the seafloor corresponded to the shape of the Arkite itself. The mess hall, the crew quarters, the bridge, even the small forward cabin that I slept in. Every part of our ship had a mirror version forming below, etched into the mud. I tried to tell myself it was coincidence, currents, erosion, statistical noise. But that lie didn't survive the next night, because that's when the tapping started again. It came at exactly 3:12 a.m. 5 sharp knocks, then silence. Then 4 more, measured, purposeful, like something was trying to count us. No one talked about it the next morning, but the fear was written in their faces. Our jokes were gone. Even the coffee tasted metallic. Later, Mara pinned a new printout of the sonar map beside the first one. At the bottom, she'd written in shaky pen, "It's watching." We launched another dive the following dawn. None of us wanted to, but no one dared suggest otherwise. The ocean was calm, as if waiting. The ROV sank fast, 3,000 meters, 3,800, 4,000. The cameras flickered through the same haze of drifting plankton until the ground emerged. The formations were still there, black trenches, spires that stabbed upward like the ribs of some colossal skeleton. But something new sat among them. It was 3 meters tall, twisted, made of the same dull, light-absorbing material. Not geometric this time, organic. Thin arches curved and folded into impossible shapes like bones fused in the wrong order. At its base, a spiral pattern had formed, etched into the seafloor, raised, not carved. A perfect replica of the Arkite's navigation route, from the last 3 days, down to every small course correction. We hadn't transmitted those routes anywhere. No signal, no data leak. Whatever was down there, it was tracking us in real time. When Mara moved the ROV closer, the feed began to distort. The screen bled with static. The deck plates vibrated under our feet. I shouted for her to pull back, and she did, but not fast enough. The instruments flickered red voltage drop system warnings. It wasn't damage. It felt more like decay. "It's eating the signal," Mara whispered, and none of us laughed. We retrieved the ROV barely functioning its surface, covered in a faint black residue that hissed when touched. Ethan ran tests, but found nothing identifiable. Whatever it wasn't mineral. It wasn't organic either. It was something else. That night, Sam picked up something strange on passive sonar. A low pulsing tone, deeper than any whale or subsurface current. It repeated every 21 seconds, and each time it came back slightly stronger, like an echo climbing upward. By morning, we'd lost the ROV feed entirely. The unit was offline, its tether dead. The black residue on its hull had corroded the wiring. Our only way of seeing below was gone. That's when Ben, our youngest tech, the only one certified to pilot the small two-person sub, offered to go down. "We can't just leave it," he said. "I'll get close enough to cut the tether manually." No one objected. We should have. The submersible. The Seeker descended into the dark, tethered to us by a single comm line. At 4,000 meters, his voice crackled over the radio. Visual on the ROV. Looks like something's grown over it. He paused. Feels soft, like skin. Then the reading spiked. Pressure alarms screamed through the speakers. "Something's pulling me." Static. Silence. His depth indicator dropped below the sub's rated limit, deeper than any human could survive before the signal vanished. For a long time, no one moved. The only sound was the soft ticking of the depth gauge still counting. We sat in the control room until dawn, waiting for a signal that never came. When the sun finally rose, the ocean was glass flat, mocking us with its calm. We should have turned back then. But Ethan, always the rationalist, insisted we stay. "If Ben's alive, he'll surface," he said. "If not, we document what happened. That's our job." Hours later, sonar picked up a contact. A small object rising from the depths, directly beneath the ship. Same size as the Seeker. Same trajectory. No radio signal. When the sub broke the surface, it looked untouched. No damage. No burn marks. As if nothing had happened. Then we saw movement inside the viewing window. Ben. He waved weakly. He was smiling. They helped him out of the hatch. His uniform was damp but dry, where it shouldn't have been. No one questioned it, not yet. They were too relieved. Too desperate to believe he was back. I stayed behind, watching from the control deck. Because the sonar was still pinging. Another contact drifting just below the ship, same depth where the Seeker had vanished. And whatever it was, wasn't moving anymore. When I switched to visual feed, I saw it. A body tumbling slowly through the dark water. Ben's suit, Ben's orange patch. Ben's face bloated, still staring upward through the endless blue. I remember dropping my headset. I remember the sound it made hitting the floor. Because that meant the thing standing on our deck wasn't Ben at all. I ran down the corridor toward the docking bay. My mind was screaming, "Don't look at him. Don't let him see you know." When I burst into the room, the others were already gathered around him. Mara, Ethan, Sam. They were smiling, laughing through tears. Ben looked off. His movements too smooth. His words too careful, like someone reciting them phonetically. When he saw me, he tilted his head slightly as if studying me. "Hey," he said. "You look pale." It was his voice, but not his rhythm. Not his tone. Just a half-second wrong. I picked up the nearest thing I could, a rusted steel pry bar, and stepped forward. Ethan shouted at me, but I barely heard him. All I could see was the black residue around Ben's collar, spreading slowly down his neck. The first swing hit him in the jaw. He stumbled, but didn't fall. The second cracked his skull. Instead of blood, a flood of briny water poured out thick and green, with thin strands writhing inside like seaweed. The smell of rot and salt filled the air. Mara screamed. Ethan backed into the wall, gagging. The thing collapsed, twitching, then went still. The water kept dripping, pooling around our boots. I don't know how long we stood there. Eventually, we dragged it back to the moon pool and shoved it overboard. It sank without a trace. No bubbles, no sound. After that, we cut all data lines, sealed the records, and turned the ship toward home. No one spoke. No one slept. Just the low hum of the engines and the sense that something was still listening. They ruled Ben's death as missing at sea. Our reports were rewritten, our data wiped. We signed the papers, we told the story. They wanted a mechanical failure, an unfortunate accident. But I kept one thing, a small drive. It contains the sonar logs from the last day, the one no one was supposed to see. Sometimes I plug it in just to make sure it's real. And every time I see the same thing, a faint signal repeating from the coordinates where we left the body. A steady rhythmic pulse, like tapping, 5 knocks, then 4. Last month, I received an email from an unknown address. No subject line, no text, just a single attachment, a sonar map. I opened it, and my breath froze. It was a perfect outline of a house. My house. The ocean keeps its secrets, but sometimes it sends them back. That was years ago. The ocean has swallowed everything since the ship, the wreckage, the truth. But sometimes, late at night, I still hear it. That same faint tapping, slow and patient, coming from somewhere deep below the noise of the world. 5 knocks, then 4, always the same. Last week I found something strange. A map file sent from an anonymous account. It showed my street, my house, and in the center, a small symbol I recognized immediately. A spiral. I closed my laptop, but I can't shake the feeling that it's still watching, still listening. If you ever find yourself far out at sea and the sonar starts to echo back patterns that look too perfect, turn around. Don't investigate. Don't look down. Because the ocean doesn't just take, it replaces.